Here are the top stories for today, October 2, 2019. President Duterte visits Russia for the second time to improve bilateral relations. President Duterte plans to speak with U.S. President Donald Trump on the Senate's plan to ban officials involved in the case of Senator Laila de Lima. The president is set to ask the DILG to step in and resolve the issue on the so-called ninja cops involved in drugs. And members of the Filipino-Chinese community joined China's 70th founding anniversary celebration.
Good day, I'm Rom Dulfo. Welcome. Our top story, President Duterte has arrived in Russia Wednesday morning as he kicks off his visit in the country upon the invitation of Russian President Vladimir Putin. In his pre-departure statement Tuesday, the president described his second trip to Russia as a chance to deepen engagement with a country that shares key strategic interests with the Philippines, both bilaterally and in the larger Asia-Pacific region. The president said his visit will start in Sochi, where he will meet Putin to assess the state of Philippine-Russian bilateral relations. Meanwhile, Defense Secretary Delfin Lorenzana on Monday said that Russia is likely to offer the Philippines various defense equipment during the visit of President Duterte. However, Lorenzana said he is not privy on whether this offer will include Russian diesel-electric submarines, which it had offered earlier. The president and his party are expected to visit the cities of Moscow and Sochi by October 1 to 5 upon the invitation of Putin. Senator Bongo said President Duterte might ask the Interior Department to get to the bottom of the so-called ninja cops controversy. This after former CIDG chief and now Baguio City Mayor Benjamin Magalong identified the cops and police officials involved in the recycling of illegal drugs in an executive session in the Senate in September. However, Senator Bongo assured the PNP remains committed to reforming itself and urged trustworthy police officials not to cover up for the erring of once, or they could risk wasting the trust given to them by Filipinos. PNP Chief Oscar Albayalde is still in hot water, but President Duterte said his decision whether or not to fire him depends on the result of the investigation. More on this from Bench Bondo.
Before leaving for Russia, President Rodrigo Duterte said he would let the Senate and Interior Secretary Eduardo Año finish their investigations in line with the procedural due process, as dismissing a top official should be done for a good reason and with enough proof. Duterte expressed confidence that Año would be in his proper equanimity when he begins the investigation and that he would rather not preempt the investigation being done by the DILG chief. Meanwhile, Albayalde on Tuesday denied trying to influence the outcome of the case against his former subordinates allegedly involved in the recycling of seized illegal drugs in 2013. During a Senate hearing, PDEA Chief Aaron Aquino, who was then the PNP Region 3 Director, said Albayalde, who was then the acting head of the NCRPO in 2016, called him to ask about the status of the case against the 13 Pampanga police officers. Albayalde, who served as Pampanga Provincial Police Chief at the time of the anti-drug raid, was relieved from his post due to command responsibility. He admitted that he asked Aquino about the status of the case but denied influencing or asking for any favor regarding the case against his former men. The 13 erring cops were ordered dismissed, but the penalty was reduced to demotion after a motion for reconsideration was filed on March 14, 2016. Presidential spokesperson Salvador Panelo said that regardless of probe results, there would be no sacred cows in the Duterte administration. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Bench Bondo.
In other news, the Senate on Tuesday approved a resolution honoring and commending the Filipino teachers for their hard work and commitment to shaping learners of all generations. The approval of Senate Resolution number 142 came in light of the celebration of the National Teachers Month from September 5 to October 5. Senator Bong Revilla, who is the author of the resolution, said Filipino teachers take on an indispensable role in molding the country's future. He called on all Filipinos to use the occasion to pay tribute to the indelible contribution of teachers in educating the youth to maximize their potentials and become productive and globally competitive citizens. Senate Majority Leader Juan Miguel Zubiri, who co-sponsored the resolution, reaffirmed his commitment to the teachers and promised that the chamber will work hard to institutionalize the pay increase basic education teachers this 18th Congress. The DFA warns the public against fake websites posing as legitimate government agencies, and the Senate commits to work on the 2020 budget bill before the year ends. More on this from Janice Cave.
The Senate on Tuesday received the House-approved General Appropriations Bill for 2020, which provides for the proposed 4.1 trillion pesos national budget for next year. Senator Sonny Angara, chair of the Senate Committee on Finance, said the panel would consolidate all of the submissions into the committee report during the congressional break, and once sessions resume, the budget bill would be sponsored in the plenary. He committed to transmitting the 2020 national budget to Malacanang for signature before the year ends. In other news, the Department of Foreign Affairs on Tuesday warned Filipinos and foreign nationals against the spread of fake websites online. In a bulletin, the DFA said there have been reports of a website that posed as a Philippine government agency that handles public procurements in the Philippines. The notices of bids for government procurement contracts in the Philippines are posted on PhilJeps. Foreign-based businesses and companies concerned parties may get in touch with the Philippine embassies and consulates general abroad. Meanwhile, the Bureau of Immigration intercepted two underage Filipino women bound for Saudi Arabia. The two women, aged 19 and 20, misrepresented their age to be able to work in Saudi Arabia. Both women initially claimed they were 26 years old but eventually admitted their real age upon questioning. The minimum age requirement for household service workers is 23 years old. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Janice Cave.
Still to come, President Duterte plans to speak with U.S. President Donald Trump on the Senate's plan to ban officials involved in the case of Senator Laila de Lima. The European Union hails the creation of Naga City as a justice zone. These and more when we return.
Upon the invitation of President Vladimir Putin for President Rodrigo Duterte to participate in the forum of the Valdai Discussion Club, the President will make a visit to Russia on 1 to 5 October 2019. The Valdai Discussion Club is one of Russia's prominent and respected think tanks and discussion groups. It organizes annually the Valdai Forum where top Russian and international officials as well as policymakers, academics, and journalists are invited. In Moscow, the President will attend a Philippines-Russia Business Forum to promote the trade and investment opportunities between our two countries. It will also serve as a venue for networking between Russian and Filipino businessmen.
President Duterte dismissed as unripe a proposal of two U.S. senators to bar Philippine government officials involved in the imprisonment of Senator Laila de Lima from entering the U.S. Earlier, U.S. Senators Dick Durbin and Patrick Leahy filed an amendment to the 2020 State and Foreign Operations Appropriations Bill to include a ban on the entry to the U.S. of Philippine government officials involved in de Lima's imprisonment. The President said he did not consider the two U.S. Senators' proposed amendment as interference and refused to comment further, pointing out that they were only voices of members of a committee and not an act of state. The President, however, said that should the Senate adopt the proposal of the two senators, he would speak to either the U.S. State Department or U.S. President Donald Trump.
I do not deal individually with the congressman or senators there. Hindi pa hinog yan. It is not an act of state. It does not carry the mandate of the entire Senate. So if there is one or two or three who says that these things exist in the Philippines, let them. I cannot help them in their ignorance. So if they decide to report it out of the committee to the plenary for adoption, and it becomes, it is now right, it becomes a matter now between two states, then that is the time maybe the State Department or Trump and I will have to talk. And I will talk.
The Land Transportation and Franchising and Regulatory Board, or LTFRB, thanked the national government and local government units for their cooperation on Monday's transport holiday. LTFRB Chairman Martin Delgar III said aside from the relatively small number of those who joined the protests on Monday, the national government and LGUs worked together to provide free public transportation, additional public utility vehicles or PUVs, and strict traffic and law enforcement in major roads while classes and work were suspended. He said these measures lessened the impact of transport strike to commuters. In a press con Monday, Delgar said no transport strike could stop the government's PUV modernization program. He cited the strong support of the public as one of the main reasons why the program would not be suspended or canceled. The Sugar Regulatory Administration sees no need for additional importation of sugar for now. This following the arrival of about 138,000 metric tons of sugar this October and the release of 150,000 metric tons in the market. SRA Administrator Hermenegildo Serafica said on Tuesday the sugar will be coming in until October 31 and will be enough until next year. Serafica, however, said he would not like to preempt the decision of the Sugar Board on whether to import more of the commodity. In an economic bulletin issued last September 27, Finance Undersecretary Gil Beltran said reforms are needed to lift the domestic sugar industry. The Confederation of Sugar Producers, meanwhile, believes the liberalization can affect millions of Filipinos who are directly dependent in the sugar industry in 28 provinces. The European Union has welcomed the establishment of Naga City as a justice zone by the Justice Sector Coordinating Council. Chargé d'Affaires Thomas Wiersing, Chief Justice Lucas Bersamin, Justice Secretary Menardo Guevara, and Interior Secretary Eduardo Año spearheaded the launch of the newest justice zone at the Naga City People's Hall on Monday. Justice zones are areas where justice stakeholders, which include the police, prosecutors, judges, attorneys, and managers of detention facilities work together to address cross-cutting challenges. The selection of Naga City as a justice zone reflects its demonstration of reform efforts like jail and court decongestion, the implementation of an electronic court system, peace and order promotion, and efficient public service, among others. Naga was named the country's 6th justice zone after Cebu, Davao, Angeles, and Bacolod. Quezon City was named as the Philippines' first justice zone in 2014. The local government of Angeles City in Pampanga has formed a task force that will stop the spread of African swine fever in the city. More on this and other news from the provinces from Teresa Montemayor.
Angeles City Mayor Carmelo Lazatin Jr. on Tuesday issued an executive order creating the Angeles City Task Force Against African Swine Fever, or ASF. Lazatin said the task force will regulate and inspect pork meat and other pork products being sold and distributed in the city. The task force will conduct a seminar for all stakeholders on ASF awareness, prevention, preparedness, and response. Lazatin also assured that there was no record of ASF in the city. Meanwhile, the Department of Labor and Employment in the Cordillera Administrative Region has reactivated the Interagency Regional Child Labor Committee to look into reported cases of child labor. This as the provincial offices of the DOLCAR profiled a total of 1,927 child laborers or children at risk. The Duterte administration aims to reduce the cases of child labor by 30% or 630,000 cases from the estimated 2.1 million child laborers nationwide. In Cebu City, the Metro Cebu Water District has requested Filipinas Water Resources Incorporated to help augment water supply to its consumers. The MCWD said the humid temperature has affected the water district's Haklupan facility, while Metro Cebu has been experiencing dry weather in the past few weeks. The low water supply has affected around 5,000 households in the cities of Cebu and Talisay. Meanwhile, the Police Regional Office 11 and the Department of Education forged a partnership on Monday to implement an anti-crime program in schools. Oplan Makabata aims to further educate students, teachers, and parents on various crime prevention programs of the Philippine National Police, particularly on illegal drugs, anti-bullying, and protection of the basic rights of the child. It also aims to address school concerns on the safety and security of the students and teachers, as well as bridge the gap between children and the police. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Teresa Montemayor.
Up next, members of the Filipino-Chinese community joined China's 70th anniversary celebration and Tugigaraweños dine on a massive serving of their famous pancit batil pato. Catch these stories. We'll be back after a few reminders.
Kung sino ang nakakita doon sa mga social media ng mga kabataan at tribo din namin na nagsasalita, ito ay binibrainwash nila. Yun ang sinasabi ko na, ito na yung sinasabi ko na mga professional activists sila yung nahati sa amin. Masakit na sa tribo namin na kahit walang pinag-aralan yung tatay namin, sana ang ano ko lang na hindi kami gamitin sana sa masamang. Akala namin na mabuti ang ginagawa sa CPP-NPA at tinutulong sa amin na gusto namin ang pangarap namin makapag-aral at makapagtapos at magkaroon kami ng mabuting kinasasya at maraming buhay sa kabataan yung sinisira nila. Ang student ng Salugpungan School sobra 1,000. So, ang 1,000 saan ngayon? Ang tanong. Andoon sa kagubatan at naghawak ng baril. Ang iba ay nandito ngayon sa harap para mag-baril. Ganun ang ginagawa sa CPP-NPA sa amin.
Nagpapasalamat ako na nandiyan sila. Isang malaking tawag dito, honor sa akin na makasalamuha ko sila dahil noong sa kasaysayan ng pag-aaral ko, nababasa ko lang sila sa libro. And ngayon, no, talaga napapaluhan talaga ako na, hindi ako makapaniwala na nandito pala sila at ganun yung nararanasan nila. Yung boses nila patuloy kong ibabahagi dito sa mga animal dahil isa din silang biktima ng panlilinlang.
Nearly 70 Filipino-Chinese were invited by the Chinese government to celebrate the 70th founding anniversary of China in Beijing Tuesday. Tycoon Francis Chua and his wife, Tanzania Honorary Consul Betty Ang, as well as former Chair of Commission on Information and Communications Technology, Ivan John and Rili Uy, were among the Filipino-Chinese who attended the anniversary. Chua said the Philippines has the largest delegation of the overseas-based Chinese to attend the founding anniversary of China. Chua cited the contributions of overseas Chinese workers in the development of China's economy. He said the Philippines can learn from China as he encouraged OFWs to save money and invest it back in the Philippines. Health authorities on Tuesday reported the hospitalization of a 4-year-old boy from Dinalupihan, Bataan due to suspected diphtheria. Vice Mayor Renato Matawaran said the patient was brought to the Dinalupihan District Hospital last Saturday but was immediately transferred to the San Lazaro Hospital in Manila. The boy complained of sore throat, cough, fever, and a weak body. The attending doctor suspected that the boy was suffering from diphtheria after finding exudates in his throat and tonsils and learning that his vaccination record was not clear. Doctors at San Lazaro Hospital gave the boy management on diphtheria and got samples from transmittal to the Research Institute for Tropical Medicine. The boy is currently in good condition. Meanwhile, Matawaran said they undertook various protective measures to prevent the spread of infection. The Vice Mayor said there was no need for massive vaccination because the children in Dinalupihan have high vaccination rate. He advised parents to maintain cleanliness and hygiene and have children with symptoms brought to rural health units immediately. About 1,000 Tuguegarauenos shared a massive serving of Cagayan Valley's famous Pansit Batil Patong. The native delicacy was the centerpiece of a festival held on Saturday. Janice Cave with the story.
A giant serving of Pansit Batil Patong, a popular noodle dish in Cagayan Valley, disappeared in minutes after being shared to at least 1,000 mall-goers during the Cagayan Valley Food and Music Festival on Saturday. In preparing the dish, the event's organizers used 200 kilograms of Mickey noodles, 500 pieces of poached eggs, and 20 kilos of cara beef, aside from vegetable toppings, chopped onions, and other ingredients. Pansit Batil Patong is a favorite delicacy in Tuguegarao, which has a large number of pansiterías serving various versions of the dish. People in Cagayan eat this pansit 2 to 3 times a week, saying it's a complete meal on its own. Its unique flavor comes from the soup-like broth, beaten egg, and cara beef toppings. Tuguegarao City Mayor Jefferson Soriano said pansit, originally introduced by Chinese traders centuries ago, has become a part of Filipino identity. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Janice Cave.
Starting today, October 2, 2019, the PNA Newsroom will be aired at PTV4 from Monday to Friday at 11:30 p.m. until 12 midnight. We will also be airing at IBC 13 from Monday to Friday at 10 to 10:30 p.m. Likewise, the PNA Newsroom will be uploaded on social media platforms and websites. Always stay tuned for more updates only here at the PNA Newsroom. Let's check out the weather forecast from Pagasa. Metro Manila and the rest of the country will experience partly cloudy to cloudy skies with isolated thunderstorms mostly in the afternoon or evening. Take another look at today's biggest stories.
President Duterte visits Russia for the second time to improve bilateral relations. President Duterte plans to speak with U.S. President Donald Trump on the Senate's plan to ban officials involved in the case of Senator Laila de Lima. The president is set to ask the DILG to step in and resolve the issue on the so-called ninja cops involved in drugs. And members of the Filipino-Chinese community joined China's 70th founding anniversary celebration.
Thank you for watching another episode of the PNA Newsroom. To check out more news content, check our webpage or head on to the Philippine News Agency's Facebook and Twitter accounts. For more stories about the government, how it serves Filipinos, look for these hashtags on all our social media platforms and websites. We are shown on the pages of PCOO and its attached agencies. Watch us on television on PTV4 and IBC 13. And that's your daily dose of the biggest stories that you need to know from the PNA Newsroom. I'm Rom Dulfo. Good day.